Hello, this is a Yamaha U3G made in 1971. It's just come into stock, and we've been evening out the weight on the keyboard very often when they come in. In fact, normally these are actually from a trade source, but very often we find that we need to reweight the keys, and here's an example. And they all tend to need to do this. So the 60 here in this note is about, it should be 50, 52 maximum really. 48, so 60 is over 10% higher than it should be. Middle C is about 9-10% higher than it should be as well, and bottom here as well. So we need to lighten the keyboard. Sometimes pianos come in, we need to make the keyboard heavier, but it's really important for the musicians, and if you're going to study, it's important to have an even keyboard. So this is C, note 64, and it's now going down 52 grams. We're just trying to rough pass and make it slightly more even than this. So middle C here, for instance, that's also about 62 grams. C below, we find that's just slightly lighter. So we're going to try and even it out even more. But you have to put your foot on the pedal if you test, by the way. And if you haven't got piano weights, you might like to try finding out how much your coins weigh and try your keyboard. So here's another one, U3G, that came in as well, and you can see again the weights need evening out. This is middle C, and we haven't done any evening out of the weights yet, so this is middle C with 52 grams on it, and it won't go down, even encouraging it by hitting to take away the initial inertia. It doesn't go down, so it's 60 grams, and that's, as I say, over 10% higher than it should be. So here's a brand new Feurich, and Feurich have set this, that's below 52 grams as you can see. This one here, around about 52 grams if we hit the bottom of the keyboard to take off the inertia. Remember to put your foot on the pedal when you do this, and that's going down, so 52 grams roughly. Feurich managed to get it to within plus or minus 2 grams or plus or minus 1 gram sometimes. So sometimes we have to check the Feurichs as well, but normally they come in extremely well as these new pianos. One reason why we like to do Feurichs is because they're so well regulated. So there's another one. So nearly all at 52 grams or less. Here's a Kawai K200, and that's around about 52 grams, I think. This is about 4 or 5 years old. This piano come back into stock. That often happens when you're a piano dealer for one reason or another. And sometimes people want to exchange it for $1,000, for instance. So that one's just a bit less. I think we might need to even out the weight of this slightly, but it's pretty good on the whole. So around about 52 grams or a little bit less. This piano's literally just come in today, and made in 1975, U3H, I think. The H is the longest series from about 1970 to 1980, and we always like G's and H's. Both of them are tremendously good pianos, and that you can see, I think we sold this about 20 years ago, and it's come back in again. So if we look at the weights on this, and interestingly enough, it's too light, if anything, so you can see it's going down with 52 grams. Middle C, let's take 4 grams off and see what happens. So round about 48, well that's not too bad really, and this one here, let's try that. Oh, that's too light, that's less than 48, so we're going to have to weigh that. Again, you can have a slight variety of touch, it depends on what you like. Kawai apparently set theirs at 55 initially nowadays, so that's what I've heard, but I'm not certain if that's correct. But there we have 48 grams, and generally quite on the light side really. Now this is a trade piano from one of the trade sources we get. They get it from Japan and it's restored there. So we import pianos directly from Japan sometimes ourselves, but nowadays we tend to get them from the trade and ask them to choose the ones that suit us the best, that we like, and obviously they try to do that. So you can see here that the restoration is perfect. The hammers here, for instance, really you can't see any wear. It's amazing how many used pianos there are in Japan that don't really get used. They need a bit of reconditioning, need a bit of key easing. I called it lubricant earlier on, but it's really easing the keys and putting talc on them. And then looking at the action generally, it's in perfect condition, or it's been restored where necessary. At the back, the loops need doing. I don't know if I can show you the loops. Let's try. You might, if you look down there, I think it's going to be too dark, but just about see a loop there, and they need doing really. They very often go. So let's have a look at the top end. Perhaps I can show you a loop there. There we are. The loops are the ones that, I don't know if you see a little spring at the back there, and the loop is what's holding. It helps the repetition really, and so and they very often perish, so they need replacing. So that's a U3G made in 1971, one of our favourite pianos. But very often we find the touch, in fact nearly always, needs evening out. Usually it's too heavy. First of all, we lubricate the keys. That's something we do before we do any touch rating. But if you're studying the piano, it's important to have the touch as even as possible and not too heavy and not too light. Very even sounding piano, beautiful. I've tried to distinguish between which was the best of the Yamahas, and it's so difficult to do. They're all different. It's personal preference really. If you want a piano from us and you can't come in, then please do write to us saying what kind of touch, what kind of tone you prefer. If you're not sure, then we'll try and choose what we think is the best piano for you. The tenor's beautiful. That's something I particularly look for in a piano. Of course, this melody area is the most important area. Thank you for listening. Do write to us, info@robertspianos.com.